he used to take the N train all the way up to 59th Street and 5th Avenue and start selling ballpoint pens to the clients of the Sherry Netherlands Hotel. And at that point, you met one of the most powerful men in the world. So for people who don't know, who was the ambassador? Who was Frank Costello? What was he like?
Frank Costello, while Vito Genovese was in prison, was the boss of the Genovese family, one of the 5 families in New York. But what's more important, which people don't know, in the 20s and 30s, he amassed $50, $60, $70 million a year during Prohibition. This is his building.
Yeah.
I live here. When he died in 73, George Wolfe, his attorney, said, come to the office. And he gave me a piece of paper, and I left. He said, no, I want you to open it. I said, why? He said, aren't you curious? I said, no, how many envelopes I picked up for? He said, no, this is for you. So I opened it, and he gave me 6 units in here. I live in 2, I rent out 4. But that's the kind of guy. He still owns 11 Wall Street. It's a 50-story building. We're not talking about, and this guy had no education either. As a young man, he got in the wrong crowd. Because when a lot of people from Sicily, when they first came here, didn't go to Mulberry Street, Little Italy. They went to Harlem, because that's where the Sicilians were. Down here was Mulberry Street, was a lot of Napolitans, Neapolitans. Mm-hmm. So he got in with the wrong people, and the first thing, he got a gun arrest. And it did 5 or 6 months. And from that point on, he realized he's a lot smarter than that. And look what he did. I know more about him than most people, because Loretta and him had no kids. I just finished my 3rd book, Mafia Secrets. Now they asked me to do another book, and I'm doing it. It's The Son He Never Had. And it's all about this. When I tell you what he owned, I know. And he's dead now, and you don't care about it. The reason I'm sharing it now, this man wasn't an idiot. He was a genius. That's why, he and Meyer Lansky, what they did in this world is insane. They controlled Vegas for years. I took like 700-800 million out of there for them. In 5 or 6 years I was doing that. We're talking about almost $1 billion. That's insanity.
You mentioned he was a genius. He was like a father figure to you. You've mentioned in your book that gangsters were different when Frank Costello took me under his wing. They had a sense of style. They knew how to keep their mouths shut. And when they gave their word, it meant something. You've also mentioned in your book that the Mafia taught me about the way of life. Can you talk about the lessons that you learned from the mob, from the Gambinos, from Frank Costello? What did they teach you about the way of life and the way of the world?
Well, the way of life, I knew, because I was privy because of Carlo Gambino knowing my family and my uncle in Sicily. So I can go to the Ravenite, their club, anytime. The law was nobody that was not a made man could go in that club until after 12 o'clock. Because before 12 on Sunday is when all the real guys came to give them the envelopes and all that. And that was for nobody's eyes. And a lot of times I'd be sitting in there, and they all got used to the kid being there. When John Gotti started, because his, what we call him, his rabbi in the neighborhood was O'Neill Della Croco. And O'Neill was the underboss. And the reason he took Gotti in, because Gotti, they found out in Howard Beach, was a big hijacker. And they called him in. You can't do this in our neighborhood. We get a piece. So he had to bring an envelope every week. And one day, we're about 16, 17 years old, John and I, we're only a couple years apart. And he said to O'Neill, and I never saw this side of O'Neill, because O'Neill was always gentle with me. He said, how come that kid is in here? He says, what kid? He's that kid. He said, you mean the kid? He says, yeah. He said, come over here. He got up. He bitch smacked him. He said, don't ever ask me a question about that kid. He said, why? And he hit him again. He said, I just told you don't ask me. He said, let me tell you something. I heard a lot about you. You're a very vengeful person and violent. He said, if that kid gets a splinter, I'm going to stick a telephone pole up your ass personally. Now get out of here. and come here. Don't come here for 6 months. I still want my envelope every Sunday. Not only build a bigger hatred for John. John hated me.
Yeah.
But, so to answer your question, I never wanted to be a part of that club. Because even the old timers who are respectful guys, but that whole group is gone. The old classy guys like Carlo Gambino, he was a braggart. He didn't do anything. In fact, I had the privilege right down the block at Rodney Dangerfield's club. I was doing a show. I wanted to be a singer. And I was singing and going all there. And they booked me here. Unbeknownst to me, Carlo Gambino called everybody for my opening night and said, you got to be there for that kid. I walked out. Everybody, you name everybody, every family in New York was there. They were all sitting there. And the club was like you're working on an airplane wing. It was very long and narrow. And there's Carlo Gambino, and everybody was sitting there, Joe the Cat, everything. And I came out, and that's when they were all wearing the lavender color shirts and all of this. And I came out, and I looked at the room, and I said, you look like Baskin-Robbins here. It's like 56 flavors in the room. You could hear a pin drop until he started laughing. And then he started laughing, and that was the end of it. But people, even for that night, and John and them were at the bar, they couldn't even come in the room. And they built a hatred that I loved because I didn't want nobody around me. You couldn't come near me. And if you did, nobody don't realize I'm 10th degree Tai Chi Matsu. See this hand? This hand, I know everybody bought your nerve centers. I'm not going to get violent. Yeah, I'm going to come over and caress you. And then you'll be leave paralyzed or on the floor. But everything they taught me, especially, with Costello first, don't ever repeat anything I tell you. And he never wrote anything down. People want to know, how do I have retention like I do? He would tell me something, I had to remember it. There's not a piece of paper. One time when he got shot, and I saw him the next day. If you read the newspaper about it, in his paper, he had a slip with the breakdown of the Tropicana Hotel, slot machines, this, that, and that. And he got that piece of paper from Blackie. He's don't ever write, I think, because now they wanted to know what he had with that. See? So I don't write anything down. And anytime I talk to real guys, they're not around anymore, like Marcello's, when they were planning the Kennedy assassination, as soon as I'd walk in, they go like this. No talking. So when they had to tell me something, they'd call me over. Hey, kid. I go over there, he whisper in my ear. And they now repeat it back to me. It's me, right? Go tell that guy. That was it. They had that club bugged. I'd go in and out of it. They couldn't stop me. Get out of here.
You brought up Meyer Lansky. You spoke about how Frank Costello was so influential. A lot of people forget how deeply embedded the Mafia was in building America. People talk about the greatness of New York City, of Chicago, of Las Vegas, but they forget that it was the Mafia, the La Cosa Nostra, that actually built these cities. If you were an actor, musician, politician, a lot of the presidents as well, you had to be well connected with the Mafia. You need to know the wise guys and the made men. You had to have those connections. I think the Mafia was so deeply ingrained in America that for better or worse, it would have been a very different country if they weren't in it. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. And what was told to me early on, because he wanted me to let me know why this organization was started. And Carlo Gambino, most people don't know this, Carlo Gambino, when he was 16, 17, he was made in Sicily by the Gambino family that's still there. It's still working. Very powerful. He was made and sent here to get control of the Moderado gangs and all of them, which in this country they're called the Black Hand. They were shaking down Italian immigrants, shaking their business, selling them protection. When they found out about that over there, they put their own crew together. And that's what that was about. He said, I want you to know why we started this. And Costello didn't get involved till later on. But by that time, that's why the five families came into it. And it was an organization, like a council, that ran certain boroughs and towns, and you couldn't shake down immigrants anymore. And then it got into drugs and betting and Shalaj and with a new regime, and it was all that, crazy stuff. But,